Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/goblin. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. You know, I have to say, using the Undermine Journal without using TSM is like buying hollow point bullets to shoot with your slingshot.
You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast with Dex and Mac. I got mouths to feed, so let's get this thing started. Time is money, friend.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Azeroth. You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast, your guide to making gold in World of Warcraft. This is episode 7. I'm your host, Dex, coming to you from Napa, California. With me on Skype is my co-host Mac from Anchorage, Alaska, who, on a recent trip to Disneyland, discovered that when wearing the right shoes and hat, he's tall enough to ride nearly 60% of the rides. How you doing, Mac?
Not getting any taller, just getting a little wider. Yeah,
I completely understand now why you never make dwarfs. I never pieced that together before just now. I realized that now.
I just play the tall races.
So how's everything going?
It's going pretty good. How's it going with you today?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Had the back to school night, so we're recording a little later in the evening than we normally do. I will survive. I can always get my drink on afterward.
There we go. Yeah, I've had a bunch of coffee today, and I'm waiting till we're done so I can get mine on.
I wanted to say before we go any further, we've received some great feedback on the show, and wanted to share some of that with you guys. I understand that you've received some emails and some Twitter responses, and would you like to share a couple of those with us?
Yeah, we've got a couple emails. One of them was from Bayou Billy on the Alaria server. Mm-hmm. We asked some people if they would give us some things they would like to see in the game. Give us some things you'd like to see in the game. And one of his suggestions for a gold sink was having an in-game casino. I know other games you and I have played, they have an in-game casino where you put X amount of whatever the currency is in that game out there.
Right.
And you have a chance to get a nice item out of it. You also have a chance to lose some items. I mean, just like a real casino. So it'd be a way to have a gold sink. Yeah. Another thing he suggested was having a crafting packages that you could make for the auction house. Say you're trying to make a sky golem. You get all of the mats together for like a sky golem, and then put them in the auction house under a package, and have the package name, a sky golem kit or whatever, and be able to sell packages like that.
That's an interesting idea. I think there's a little bit of a drawback to doing it that way, in that when you put a package together, not being limited on what types of packages you can put together, it would be hard to have a unique identifier in game for searching for for something in the auction, or even keeping track of it. So it does create a problem there that they would have to overcome. But I'm sure there's a way around that. But yeah, that sounds very interesting. What else did he have to say?
Oh, that was basically it. He was commenting that he liked the trade skill master, was offering to give me some help and tutoring me on how to use it. I know.
Good luck with that.
I'm kind of a novice in that, and that leads into another email we had from Goochwix Copperbottom. Goochwix Copperbottom. Sorry.
I'm so glad that you've got these names and you got to field them instead of me.
He's from the Emerald Dream, and he did comment about the Trade Skill Master add-on and asked if we could go into that. Right. And I know we're going to be doing a show here in the future on add-ons, and we'll go over that shortly. But with the learning curve on Trade Skill Master, we're probably going to end up having to put a lot of information in the show notes instead of just, boring people to tears.
Absolutely. It's, in fact, some of the... in order to show somebody how to use that, if you tried to do that with just an audio medium only, like a podcast, it would not make any sense. So when we do an add-on show, it'll be all about add-ons, and because Trade Skill Master is such a huge part of that, we're going to have to spend a significant amount of time on that. But what we'll have to also do, and what will have to accompany that, is within the show notes, we're going to have to put some links probably, and also detail out some different scripts and so forth that you use with that. Because it's a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit too complicated to just say, okay, this is how you use it in this type of medium. I don't think it would really work. But yeah, we're going to do the best we can with it when we do that. And also, I do want to say, I know we're not doing it right now, but I do want to say that there are others out there who have done a much better job of explaining how to use this add-on than I could ever do. Right. So a lot of what I'm going to provide there is probably going to be links to what other people have done to explain it really well and really articulately. And so I'm not going to try to completely reinvent the wheel, but maybe try to nudge people in the right direction to get good information.
Give them a little roadmap.
Well, yeah, because there are people out there that have put a lot of work into developing great sniper. I'm going to call them scripts. I don't know if that's what people call them in game. That's what I call them. But just basically what to do with sniper to look for your items to grab and turn right around and flip and make money on, because a lot of times things are posted real cheap and they only last for a few seconds, and sniper is a part of Trade Skill Master that people make a lot of gold with. But anyway, I don't want to get too far afield on that, but we will be covering all of that in a future show. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover from that?
Well, not on that one, but we had one more person contact us on Twitter, actually just before the show earlier today, at ForDaHorde2 on Twitter, contacted us and was asking about Motes of Harmony. He wanted to get Spirits of Harmony to be able to do fast track making the Sky Golems, at least right. the using the Riddle of Steel.
Yeah.
And as we've talked about before, the Half Hill Farm. I mean, that's me. I mean, doing the song bells out there and planting those. I mean, that's how I'm getting most of my Motes of Harmony now. Right. Another place is out in Townlong Steppes. The area out there, it's Shrav Ves. There's a little island you can run around out there.
Right.
And mass kill the name mobs. It used to be a lot better when the potions of luck were still in the game.
Right.
You could collect those really, really quickly. Now you still collect them. It's just not quite as quick. And again, I like the ease of the Half Hill Farm. I don't have to sit there for hours trying to farm something up. But it is available out there. You can do that, and in a short period of time, you can get relatively short period of time. You could get enough Motes of Harmony to make Spirits of Harmony out there.
Now, I do want to say, since we're talking about that, my preference is to just go after the Trillium. And if you can have enough alchemists to make this with, because it's a better deal, because even if you have the Spirits of Harmony, trading them straight across for Trillium from the vendor, you will make more bars than if you use them to make the Riddle of Steel. The Riddle of Steel is only the way to go if you don't have multiple alchemists to work with. So right. Keep that in mind. If you have enough alchemists to handle your supply of Trillium, better to go that way. At any rate, so short of getting yourself a time machine and going back to before Potions of Luck were grayed out, those are some good ways to do it to get your Motes of Harmony. But nothing is going to really beat mass slaughtering mobs. Probably the Half Hill Farm, you can get what, 16 per character per day, right?
Right.
Yeah, 16 motes per day. So that's a way to if you have a lot of characters to do that. But my feeling is if you have that many characters to run the farm, you probably have space to have that many characters to have alchemy as well. Just my feeling there, but everybody needs to find their own way on that. Anything else on feedback you'd like to cover?
No, that's about it. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate people contacting us. It's nice to know that there are people listening.
Right. And if you would like to, if you'd like to leave us a comment or ask us a question, and you want to do it in audio form, remember, you can leave us a voicemail on our website at goblingoldcast.com. And just keep it short. Needs to be about 90 seconds or less, I think, is the threshold for the app that we have set up for that. So just leave us a quick word, and hey, if we like the question, if it works for the show, we'll put it in the next show.
And let us know whether you'd like us to use your real name or your character name. I've defaulted to character names for the time being, just because I didn't know.
Right. If you give us your real name and your character name and you don't specify which one you want us to use, we will default to the character name just to help keep your privacy. We're very much aware of that. We don't use real names on this show for the most part. Believe it or not, my real name is not Dex, and his real name is not Mac. In fact, our characters aren't Dex and Mac. Those are shortened versions of what our character name is. So we actually like to help people keep anonymous if that's what they would like. That brings us to this week's topic. This week's topic is the result of a YouTube video that I recently stumbled upon by Reckles at Wanna Buy Gold, and he had challenged the YouTube community to participate in what he calls hashtag 20 days of gold making. When he came up with the idea, I think we were 20 days out from the Legion launch coming up on the 30th here. And the idea was every day to have different gold makers on YouTube put out a YouTube video that would basically fill the time leading up to Legion with a lot of nice tips about making gold and information and kind of a 20 questions kind of thing. And by the time I stumbled upon it, we're in a situation to where we just have this show before Legion. Our next show will be right after Legion launches. So after some thought and figuring out what we want to do, we're going to try to do kind of a condensed version of that where we deal with all 20 questions on this show. So we're hoping for the best. We're going to try not to have a real long show today, but we want to give a little bit of time to each one of the questions. But anyway, Reckles put together an awesome set of questions, and we want to thank him for that. So, what we thought was, I realized we're not a YouTube channel, and we don't have a YouTube show, but we really wanted to participate, in this as well. And so I don't think he's going to mind, and so we're going to put that together. But before we get into all that, Mac, why don't you tell us about your week?
Basically, I did a lot of demon invasions. I had a lot of alts to level up, so they're at the right appropriate level when the expansion goes live. So I've been buzzing around doing the demon invasions, and unfortunately, to expedite my time and be able to get to all of them, I spent way too much gold on fast flying for a lot of tunes.
So you're broke now.
No, I've still got about 100K left, but when you've got 15 tunes that you've got to get up, and artisan and mastery for fast flying is 5K each, so you've got 10K in there. Wisdom of the Four Winds is like 2,500 gold, so that's basically just with those without cold weather flying. Well, if you add cold weather flying, which is 500 gold, you're looking at 1,300 gold for 13,000 gold. I'm sorry, for every character you had to do it, and I did it on like 8 or 9 characters. So
my word. So basically, you were left with just about enough gold to handle the repair bills from the invasions, right?
Oh no, I got more than that. But it's
I heard you died a couple of times in the invasions.
It's been an expensive week.
I heard a lot of I did a lot of invasions as well, and I heard a lot of complaining about repair bills from people.
Mrs. Mack heard a couple choice words from me. It's like, how did I die this time? I'm getting better. I'm not dying as much. But,
well, I think Blizzard found their new gold sink. Put in an event that kills people over and over again, and with the repair bills, we'll get some of that gold out of the system.
Well, the repair bills were nothing compared to, like I said, how much I spent getting all my new tunes, fast flying. That was just really, really expensive.
Wow, see, I am so cheap. I am so cheap. I don't put fast flying on hardly anyone.
Well, you got the invasions, you've got the boss mobs that spawn all over the place, and everyone flies and kills them, and you get you get a lot of experience for killing those things. So I'm not just going to stand, if it's in the Barrens, I'm not just going to sit there in the crossroads and kill the little mobs out there. I'm going to go out and kill the bosses.
All right.
You level a lot quicker, and I don't want to sit there and show up, too late to tag the mobs. So yeah, fast flying was, I've got characters that I normally wouldn't have got fast flying. I got fast flying on them. So
okay. So it was pretty much all demon invasions all the time for you then?
Pretty much, besides my daily making, my stuff for my sky golems.
Yeah.
But that was it. Dying over and over again. Again this week I've spent more gold than I've made. So, yeah. How was your week?
Well, I don't think I did quite as many demon invasions as you did, but one of the things that was discovered by a lot of people in the gold making community, and even a person or two that we heard from that listened to the show. Yeah, we heard that all about all the experience that's being made with the invasions, and that's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. They nerfed and then they unnerfed and then they twisted this and changed that, and I hesitate to say they've settled into where they are, but I do think that they're happy with where it is right now. And where it is right now is that if you are in a demon invasion and you are active and you are tagging all of the elite mobs, you are making a lot of experience. And I went in, and in a very short period of time, I took a character with no bonuses except for heirlooms. Right. From 95 to 100 in like a blink, and then I took another one from 92 to 100, and that one had heirlooms and also had the garrison potion for the 20% added, and it was so fast. And little tip to anybody who's listening to this, and they want to take advantage, because this last week here the invasions are being increased even more. They're more frequent. You want to, if you're bringing a lower level character through, even if it's like a level 10 character that you're starting and you've got the goal of, I'm going to level them on invasions only, which, by the way, you can do, save all of your reward lock boxes that you get, your treasure boxes, and open them up. Go ahead.
I was going to mention that, but yeah. We have a friend who was arguing with me earlier this evening about that. It's like, no. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I proved it out, because others had proved it before me, but I proved it for myself that boxes that I collected when I was level 92 and opening up at 100, they are that eye level 700 gear. They're the good gear, and you can take a character up, not worry about gear too much, and just deck them out at that point and pretty much cover just about every slot. Very, very nice going into Legion, and having some items that you're probably going to have for half an hour to 45 minutes at least after the after the expansion launches. Sorry.
Well, I did one from level. I had one druid that was pretty low level. I hadn't used my recruiter friend to level him up, and I went from 29 to 92. It just, really quickly.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to a friend that a mutual friend that just hang on to him, and he goes, no, the lock boxes, when you open them later, you get the same level as you got them in. It's like, no.
No, because the actual item is not, the way it works is the item that you have in inventory, which is the box, changes into another item that's not determined until you click on it. And so it doesn't work that way at all. I can say that with absolute certainty.
I have verified that.
Yeah. So just really quick for my week, besides the invasions, I'm up to 188 mounts, so I'm edging closer and closer to my goal. Hey, in October I'll have another one, right?
Maybe. Oh yeah. You've been trying to get that one for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. But I think really I should have 189, but one of my mounts, for some reason, I have it, but it's not showing up, and I got to figure out what's going on with that. But another thing that I did, speaking of mounts, and this is more of a function than trying to get just another mount. I have 188 mounts, and a water strider's not one of them.
I don't have that one either. So.
Apologies to 99 problems, but I don't have a water strider of any color, and so I decided to go into Pandaria and spend about, maybe 10 days I think it'll take me to bring up the faction to get that. I'm guessing it'll be about 10 days. Did day one of that today, so I should be getting fairly close to it by the time Legion launches. I'll still need a few days probably after that, but yeah. So that was kind of my week. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to pass it to you, and Mac is going to ask me the questions, the 20 questions, 20 days of gold making questions, and then I am going to do my best to answer them, and then he will also give an answer if he has one for that particular question. So go ahead and take it.
All right. First question, day one. Your gold making origins. When did you start making gold, and what triggered it?
We got to go back a little ways for this one. Back in 2000, September of 2000, I was in a mall at a software store called Babbage's, which I don't believe exists anymore. It doesn't here in California, as far as I know, any longer. And I was looking for a game that I'd been waiting a long time to come out. For the life of me, I can't remember what the name of it is. I've never remembered what the name of that game was, but I knew what it looked like, and I wasn't sure what the exact name was, and it was, I'm kind of stumbling through, and I saw EverQuest on the shelf. And at that point, EverQuest already had an expansion out, and it had another one that had just launched, the second expansion, I believe, of that. And I thought, oh, this is it. This is the game. And so I discovered EverQuest completely by accident. I brought it home. Never had experience with an MMO or anything like that. After I got it home and I started to install it, I immediately realized this is not the game I thought it was. And I was dubious at best. I thought about immediately trying to return it and bring it back. But I thought I'll give it a chance. And I thought, wait a minute, I got to pay monthly to play a game? I had never heard of such a thing. To actually pay money to play a game each month after I purchase it, right? So
I was playing Ultima Online at the time, so I had already experienced that, but yeah.
Yeah, I had no experience with that at all. And so I gave it a shot. I went in, logged into the game. I was in the game for maybe 10 minutes, I think, and I had to stop immediately, pick up the phone, call you in Alaska, and say, you need to go buy this game. No, you don't understand. You need to go buy this game right now.
And I had heard about it and heard people who called it Evercrack, and yeah. So
obviously this is years before World of Warcraft came out.
Well, I was in the process of moving, because when we first started playing that game, if you remember, my new place, I was getting my DSL. We didn't have cable modems, but I was getting my DSL hooked up, and they hadn't hooked it up at my house yet.
Right.
But I did have unlimited long distance, and you had an Earthlink account that you could have. You could have anybody logged onto your account. So for the first week or so that I played EverQuest, I would use my unlimited long distance to call San Francisco to log into your Earthlink account.
Right. So we both started playing this game, and the interesting thing about this game, as opposed to World of Warcraft or anything that came after, or even EverQuest later, is that raid gear was not bind on pickup. And so anything that dropped was sellable in-game. Practically everything was sellable in-game. And I saw that, and I thought, I'm not interested in raiding. It wasn't something that appealed to me. Still to this day, I prefer a nice, tight-knit group of 5 or 6 players, going in. It was 6 players in a group. In EverQuest, it's 5 in WoW. And I prefer that kind of content. But I still wanted nice, shiny things. So I thought, okay, I can spend about a third of my time making in-game currency, and I can get everything that I want, all the best raiding gear, by spending about a third of my time doing that, and the other 2/3 I can literally do whatever I want. And it worked for me, and I enjoy that so much. And that's kind of the way that went. I will say that over time, just different methods of making gold changed and all of that, and I figured out that if you just keep on top of different changes in games, things get nerfed and you have to move on to other things, and as long as you keep up with that, you can always have in-game currency. So my origins in gold making actually are origins in a different game, and it just continued on into World of Warcraft and got me to where I am now. We both started, in the same place basically with that. I know you were playing another game previous to that was an MMO, but why don't you give a little bit of your insight on that?
Well, like I said, I didn't play the other one that long. I had played Ultima Online basically about a month before you contacted me. And then, like I said, I was in the middle of moving. Dial-up connection back then sucked, so I would get disconnected from the other game a lot. It didn't happen when I went to EQ. But you always, like I said, you always seemed to have a way to make gold, and you would always share your insights with me. And it helped me get a little extra. Well, it was plat over there, but a little extra in-game currency to be able to buy the things that I needed. So
yeah.
And I think when we both left that game, you had 20 million.
I don't even know how much I've got on that game right now that I just left. They also have tokens, just like the WoW tokens. They did it before WoW did it, and theirs are completely tradable in game. It's whatever the market will bear on those. And I have many, many, many tokens sitting on a character somewhere where it will languish away.
So, anyways, day 2. What were your goals? What were your goals when you originally started, and what are your goals now for making gold?
Well, originally in WoW, I wanted enough gold to purchase fast flying on. Well, it wasn't even fast flying; it was just flying on 3 or 4 characters, the 3 or 4 that I had at the time. Mm-hmm. I didn't really think much beyond that. That was a goal of a lot of people, and it was almost an unreachable goal for a lot of people. 5,000 gold was a lot back then for a lot of people. And as time went by, I started to want more and more shiny things until eventually it became more and more about the gold and less about the things I could buy. So if I'm to completely be honest about this, seeing a large bank balance does more for me than all the cool stuff I can buy with it most of the time. So that's how I've evolved or devolved, depending on how you want to look at it. I guess what I'm saying is my current goal is to have all the gold on every realm.
There we go.
No, but seriously, I just my current goal is to have the new gold cap of 10 million on at least 5 different realms, and I hope to have that before next expansion. And I think it's when I say next expansion, I mean the one after Legion. And looks pretty attainable. If it was Legion, then no, I wouldn't be really making that, I don't think. What about you?
Yeah, I think my goals originally were, me, I have way too many alts, and I think my original goals were just to be able to buy enough gear for all my alts. Right now, my new goals are to have enough gold to buy not just all the gear, but other special shiny things that are in the auction house that I normally wouldn't be able to afford.
Do you have an amount of gold that is a goal, or is it more along the lines of the things that you want?
I'd like to be able to cap out here. I mean, that would be my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working that way. I don't have as much starting cash. Hopefully, or starting goal. Hopefully, I'll be able to get there.
I think that's very achievable. It's like with anything else, and if you ask in the real world, you ask somebody who is a multimillionaire, if they got multiple millions, getting 10, 15, 20 million more is not really that tough for them. They'll tell you that the first million was the hardest.
Right.
So really, once you get that initial amount of gold, you'll find that it really goes a lot quicker.
Right.
I know that was true for me. After I got over a certain threshold level, it seemed like that the gold rolled in a lot quicker.
So on to day 3, or question number 3. Tips and tricks. What were the first techniques you used when you started out for making gold?
I started playing WoW for the first time about halfway through the Burning Crusade, but back then transmog was something you worked up the courage to tell your parents about. It wasn't a way to make gold. I started out farming a lot of low-level mats, and I sold them to all the rich crafters. I considered them to be rich, so I'd go out and I'd farm ore and herbs and cloth, and they were kind of the staples of my income back then. And I eventually got to a point to where instead of selling them to the crafters, I started crafting myself, and I finally built up enough gold to where I could afford to flip some items in the auction house. But that's kind of the techniques that I used in the beginting. What about you?
Pretty much exactly the same thing I did. I would herbing, mining, getting cloth, selling them in the auction house. That's the way I made money or made gold back in the day. I still do that if I'm on a new server. Yeah.
Right. You got to start out, if you have nothing, you pretty much have to start out with something like that, or maybe farming. If you have the character level and strength to do it, you can go in and farm old raids and so forth. But you got to get that starting capital together if you want to work the auction house.
Question number 4: how do I store gold? Do you use a bank, an alternate guild? What do you do? And when did you start doing that?
I use several guild banks. I have a few of them. The amount of materials and auction items that I deal with every day kind of forces me into that. The trick is to remain organized so that you know where everything's located. I haven't been always the best about doing that, but it's something that I always try to get better at, just organization, which we talked about in a previous podcast.
And me, I don't have the alternate guilds that you do. I just use the bank and the mail system, which is the mail system's kind of a little a no-no I'm trying to get away from. Yeah.
It's like being a clicker or a keyboard turner, man. I'm telling you.
Day 5, the secrets of a bank alt. Do you keep a banker alt, or do you change them up occasionally, and why?
I'm gonna treat this question as if it asks about my auction house posting characters, because I don't really have a what I would call a banker alt, but I keep attuned to sell things on the auction house. When I started out, I had one character that I always parked at the auction house, and this character did nothing else. I didn't level them, nothing. At some point, I decided I wanted to hide behind several different posters, and I kind of believed that it gave me an advantage at the time if I was able to be able to do that. But eventually, I settled on using one character to post all my auctions, because it became such a headache just logging into multiple tunes every time I needed to post a bunch of things in the auction house. And I do rotate the character that I use every few months, so I don't become known for selling certain items and things like that, just to keep my competitors on their toes, I guess you'd say. But when I rotate, I'm rotating to a new one that's posting everything all the time. I'm not going to ever go back to multiple tunes posting. It was way, way more trouble than it was worth, at least for me. What about you? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to start using one, but I just use all my tunes. I use Titan Panel to keep a list of. It gives me a list of how much gold I've got on what character and the total I've got on each server. So haven't quite moved down to having one specific character. But,
so you post with a lot of different tunes, and if I have this straight, you don't use TSM, right?
No,
for your auctions.
No.
And you in fact you don't use any add-on for auctions, correct?
I use the Undermine Journal, kind of.
So
get an idea what the average price is on certain items.
I have to say, using the Undermine Journal without using TSM is like buying hollow point bullets to shoot with your slingshot. I mean, come on, man, we got to get you up to speed.
Well, I'm still trying to learn TSM, and yeah, I'll take a night and pull my hair out and try to learn that thing.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, day 6 or question 6. What have been your best wild gold markets? What's made you the most gold over the years?
I think just about everyone made a ton of gold off of Garrison, so I think we have to mention that. I think there are more WoW millionaires, I think, from Garrisons than from anything else. But over time, the most consistent market for me has been crafted items like bags and gear and mounts. Other things come and go, but I always seem to find a regular income there with that. There are a few gold making opportunities that have come and gone, and I have very fond memories of. One in particular was the old Serenite Shuffle in Wrath. I jumped on that one really early, as you know, and I made quite a bit of gold on that. Right. And finding those sort of things in the game in the very beginning is so valuable, because if you don't find it right away, sooner or later, some idiot like me is going to go on a podcast and tell the whole world about it. So get in on these things early and find them early and often.
For me, similar type things. I bags, tailoring, jewel crafting back in the day, enchanting was another one I've used a lot, and then just my gathering professions. There's still a way to make, or was still a way to make a lot of good gold. Still is a way to make a lot of good gold with that nowadays.
Right.
So day 7 or question 7, tips for new tunes. If you were starting over again on a new server, how would you build up some capital? What goal would you set for yourself? Kind of like I did here a month and a half ago when I started over.
I love this question, actually. Anyone who listens to the show, by now you know how fond I am of the different alt army methods. It's kind of a staple for me. It's funny that this is one of these questions, because a recent addition to my little MMO conglomerate has worked out really well. In fact, it occurred to me the other day that if I did start over, this is exactly what I would do. So in detail, first I would level 6 characters on the server to 100. Using the catch-up recipes in Warlords, I would boost engineering and alchemy on at least 4 of them to 700. I would make the alchemist transmute spec, and 1 character would need to be mining high enough to smelt trillium and ghost iron. Then I'd run one of the characters out through the faction quests at Half Hill and Pandaria and set up the farm. After you hit Revered with the Tillers, I would take advantage of the 100% bonus faction that you get from that, and I'd quickly boost the other tunes at Half Hill. Once I had all 6 that had 16 plot farms, I'd plant snake root every day and harvest all the ghost iron and trillium I needed. I would make 4 sky golems a month with that setup and sell the extra living steel or save it to expand the operation later, whatever seemed the most prudent. And doing this, if I were to do this right now on my main realm that I play, that little operation right there would net me about $200K a month.
Right.
And that's not bad for just starting out, and just getting a couple characters up to 100. The alchemist could also make and vendor the Dranic Philosopher Stone for even more profit. So, but having said all that, there's one thing I'd like to add. I've known many people that play this game and they refuse to share items and gold among their characters. some people that we know personally that will go completely unmentioned on the air. But it's almost like they feel like they're cheating if one of their characters gives another one of their characters gold. I would not be able to do half the things that I do if I followed that. My advice when becoming a goblin is to be a staunch capitalist, but make sure your characters are good little communists, because they need to all share the wealth with each other.
That's right. That's right. I know. All of my new tunes wouldn't have any gear if it wasn't for me sharing gold back and forth.
If it wasn't for the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few.
I mean, when we came over to the new server, I think my first real good gold was with the battle pets.
Right.
Those sold really well. I was really shocked that they sold as well as they did.
Yeah, anybody that was gone from the game for a while came back and said, "Wow, this is a lot of gold." Yeah. So what about you? If you were, you kind of did start over. So this question is kind of like, well, this could have been worded, "What did you do?" instead of "What would you do?"
We've already discussed about what I've done. I did that Half Hill Farm. I tested that, and I thought it looked like it was a way that was going to be able to make some gold, and it has turned around. I've sold one Sky Golem so far. I'm working on my second one on our main server. I've got one up made on the other server.
Right.
So I'm not on quite as many realms as you are, but I'm working that way. Sky Golems are making good gold for me, and still making hexweed bags. Those are selling. The price has gone down a little bit on our server, but it is what it is. I expect that to be going back up.
Okay.
Day 8, reaching your goals. Thinking back to day 2, did you ever reach your goal? Are you still working towards it? If you reached it, have you set a new one?
I believe in making short, medium, and long-term goals. So I make 3 different types of goals, and they're very different actually. Something I keep in mind when I'm setting my goals is to make sure that they're not real easily attainable. My medium and long-term goals are often very hard for me to reach, and my short-term goals are treated more like quotas than gold. So I kind of expect to reach those, the short-term ones. Right. Whenever I do eventually reach one of my long-term goals, I always make a new one. I think if I didn't, my gold making would start to taper off or maybe grind to a halt. But anyway, I am one of those people, and there are a lot of us out there who need goals for motivation. If I don't have a goal in front of me, it's just real easy for me to just not do it.
Right.
So what about you?
Well, you and I both came from backgrounds where we worked retail commission sales for a lot of years. And same for me, making short, medium, long-term goals. It was just, hey, how am I going to put food on the table this month? And you and I both were very successful in sales. We just used the same things we used in real life in the game. It's
Yeah, it does help. Not everybody has a sales background going into something like this. It certainly does help, but it's really not mandatory. Anybody can do it. It's like it's like making a pie. You don't have to be a chef to make a pie. If you can follow a recipe, you can make a pie.
Right. I used to love the question I would get from people. How can you work at a job not knowing what your paycheck is going to be every month? And I look at them and go, how can you work at a job where you know exactly what your paycheck's going to be every month?
Exactly. And that's a good one to turn around on them.
Anyways, on to day 9. Your secret markets. What's your favorite niche market and why?
My secret markets. Okay. Well, there are 3 things in life that I just don't believe in: honest politicians, Hollywood's ability to produce an original movie, and gold-making secrets. If there's a way to make gold in an MMO, not only will someone find it, but many people will independently find it. Also, we got to face it. WoW players have a harder time keeping secrets than Miley Cyrus does keeping her clothes on and her tongue in her mouth, all right? However, if I'm going to resist twisting the intent of the question, I'd have to say that my favorite niche market is battle pets. I enjoy flipping them and using them to transfer gold to a new server for gold making expansion. In fact, we have a whole show in the works where we're just going to be talking about battle pets and how to use them to make gold and move gold and what to be careful of. And we're going to talk about pet dupes. Yes, I know Blizzard doesn't really acknowledge that they exist, but they do. And we will have a show where we'll talk about all of that.
Not about us duping them.
Not about us duping them, but about how to try to avoid buying ones that are duped because they can disappear after you buy them. What about your super secret niche markets?
Super secret. I did the same thing you did. When I found out about battle pets and how much gold some of them were selling for. That's how I make my gold on a new server. Let's go to day 10. What do you farm? I mean, we farm materials. Why not? Which ones, and where do you farm?
To that, I got to say sometimes. I have an acquaintance in the game that I've known for some time. Again, we're not going to out this person, but they know who they are when they hear this. It seems like every week he has a new idea for making gold he wants to run by me. His ideas are, they almost always make gold, and so he doesn't understand why after a few calculations when he tells me about something, I'll often tell him that I can't afford to take advantage of the idea. For instance, if an idea generates 2K gold, but it takes the same amount of time as another operation that makes 7K, I consider that a 5K loss, not a 2K gain.
Right.
So with a farm, I need to consider if I'm better off doing it or doing something else and just using my gold profits to buy the items in the auction house. Sometimes the auction house isn't an option, but when it is, I do have to consider it. One thing in the past that I often did farm that I will likely farm again are the mats to make ember silk bags. This is something I did in Bastion or Twilight, and that was definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, you and I both do that. That's definitely good gold.
Yeah, I know a lot of your farms have been similar. Anything you'd like to add as far as any of the farms that you've done, things that you'd like to farm?
Yeah, well, this not necessarily the things that I like to farm, because you and I do similar things, but one of the things that I have seen people make the mistake of, we again know somebody jointly that they find a way to make gold by farming something, and then they flood the auction house, and they're shocked 2 or 3 weeks later when the price has dropped in half, and it's because they flooded the market with a certain item. If you've got a lot of a certain item that's selling for a certain amount of gold, hold some of it back in your bank, put it in a little at a time in the auction house. You flood the auction house, and the price is going to go down. It's just supply and demand.
Absolutely. I think the secret to a really successful farm is to find a good way to pass the time, so you can stay entertained. Your biggest enemy on repetitive farms is going to be boredom. One of the ways I like to do this is by listening to an audiobook. There's something very satisfying about getting so wrapped up in a story that you lose all track of time, and suddenly you realize you made a ton of gold. For you, the listeners of the Goblin Goldcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. As a listener to the show, you can download a book from the World of Warcraft series or any other audiobook free by trying audible.com. Just go to audibletrial.com/goblin to get started.
Day 11, my secret add-ons. Most gold users, as we talked about, use the Tradesco Master Auctioneer. Are there any other lesser-known gold-making add-ons?
Well, before I get into my answer, we know what your answer is. What's an add-on?
I mean, I'm Mr. Minimalist for
Well, I have to say, Tradesco Master is awesome. It has a learning curve to it, but it's well worth it. As to lesser-known add-ons, I do use a lot of add-ons, but I'm a minimalist when it comes to screen real estate. I do use a lot of add-ons, but I like add-ons like Titan Panel because it's one of those add-ons that doesn't clutter the screen. You get a lot of useful information, but it keeps it on a very thin line at the top of your screen, so your window to the world is nice and big. I also have I have an add-on called GNOME Sequencer, and if you don't know what that is, it's an add-on that puts your game macros basically on steroids. It allows you to make what's known as lazy macros, so that you can make basically little one-button macros to use for farming. Some people use these macros for everything, for in-game play. I like to use them on alts. If I have a whole bunch of alts, it's just so much easier to remember that I just have to hit the one key when I'm farming. Makes it very easy. But that pretty much covers as much as I can cover in the scope of this show on that.
Right, and we all know my answer to that.
Yeah, we do.
So day 12, my gold fails. We've all made mistakes playing the game. What was your biggest gold fail moment?
Okay, I have a real hard time with this one because I've never made any mistakes. Next. Actually, I think I've been pretty lucky here. I've heard horror stories from big-time gold makers that have been that they misposted a 500K item for 500 gold or something like that, and I don't have a really good story like that. The biggest mistake that I've made has to be when I quit playing the game for a few months into Cataclysm. I had just under about 1 million gold to my name, and I'd invested most of it in big ticket items to flip. I was feeling pretty good about myself and the gold that I had, and I got a little cocky, and I put a whole bunch of my liquid cash into the auction house, probably more than I should have. And this included a vial of the sands back when very few people had them, and they were going on my server for quite a large amount of gold.
Right.
And I had it up on the auction, and I quit the game. I had a whole bunch of auctions up, and I just stopped playing. And I went to a new game, and I forgot all about it. And then when I returned to the game at the end of Pandaria, of course, everything was gone. So I have to admit that I did regret that just a little bit when I returned. But what about you? Let's hear about the gold fails.
Oh, it was a recent one. You and I had been farming Kazak. How do you pronounce his name? Kazak. Kazak. There we go. We'd been farming him and selling Fellblight. Right. And I had a couple weeks worth of Fellblight for multiple characters on one character.
Right.
And I went to sell it in the auction house, and I forgot to change my settings around, and I sold a whole stack of Fellblight, or a large chunk of Fellblight, for way too little gold.
For a single price, unit price.
Yes.
You know a way that you can avoid that, right?
Yes.
You get an add-on
called Trade Skill Master. Okay.
I'm not going to hammer you too bad on that, because I know of people that have Trade Skill Master that still make that mistake from time to time. So it's not going to completely eliminate that from you. But I had to take my shot. You know.
You always have to take your shot.
I do, and I must start every show that way, don't I? But,
anyways, day 13, your most profitable day. What was your biggest gold making success or craziest flip?
My income is pretty steady because of how I make gold. I don't normally have real big swings of income, so my biggest day was likely under 200K, and a normal day for me, for comparison's sake, is about 30K. Now that 7.0 is out and nerfed the garrison. So as you can see, there is not a massive difference. There's a big difference, but there's not a massive difference between my average day and my best day. So don't really see those big home runs like a lot of people do. I'd love to be one of those guys that snipes a Swift Spectral Tiger for 100 gold and then reposts it for 1 million. Have not been that lucky. So there's a lot of competition sniping and doing things like that on my main realm, and so I haven't had any of those great big home runs. What about you? Biggest profitable day?
Just recently when I sold my first Sky Golem. That's probably. Oh,
okay.
So I mean, I've sold other things, but usually it's a little less. So that was probably my better one, instead of just my average day. I make less than you. I've got a smaller alt army. Okay. I do have ways to make a little gold a couple days a week. where I'm running a bunch of alts through various dungeons that I'm on lockout for a week for. So I do that. So it comes and goes, but I make a decent amount for what I've got.
Well, you know what made that Sky Golem feel so good is that you didn't go to the auction house and buy all those materials to make it. You gathered them all from your little farm at Half Hill, and so your gold cost for your materials was zero. It was just the opportunity cost of farming it yourself.
Correct. So. And the other problem is it's Sky Golems have become like my Hexweave bags. As much as I would really like to have a Sky Golem on one of my characters, they're worth too much to sell in the auction house to give to one of my characters.
Oh, come on.
I'm a cheap...
Well, you know me. I mean, my main focus in the game, the main thing that I want to spend gold on and get are mounts. So, of course, I bought one, but that's because that's the most fun thing to collect for me.
So, day 14. How long does gold making take? How much of your playtime is devoted to gold making? And do you raid, PvP, Pet Battle 2? Or is your auction house your main playtime?
I spend a lot less time doing it now than I did before the Garrison nerf. On a normal day, I spend an hour to an hour and a half making gold. Some days it's 5 to 6 hours. I have a lot of passive income set up these days that require very little time, so I try to focus on that, especially with Legion coming out. I have a lot of things that I want to do that aren't about gold making. I know that's blasphemy on this show, but it's true. I try to keep my gold making at or below 50% of my playtime. So sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail miserably at that. I did pet battles for a while, and I really enjoyed that. I don't do that anymore. But now, as I said before, I spend most of my time chasing down mounts and personal transmog items from dungeons, the bind on pickup ones.
Right.
And so unlike you, I care what my characters look like when they go to the party. Nobody's going to be wearing the same dress as my character at the dance.
There we go. So. Yeah, I probably spend probably about a third of my time making gold when I'm in the game. And again, depending on whether I'm getting my drink on or not.
Right.
Wake up the next morning. How much money did I spend last night? Dadgummit. We've all had those days. Some of us more than others. Pointing the finger at myself. Let's move on. Day 15, best professions. Professions, do you have all of them? Some of them, none? Which is your favorite?
I have every profession at 700 currently. I really like being self-sufficient. I hate needing a crafted item and not being able to find someone to make it for me or to sell it to me. Most professions I have, one or two with that profession on each server. But others like alchemy, tailoring, and engineering, I have several of each of those. My favorite profession for gameplay is definitely engineering. I mean, hands down.
Oh yeah.
Love all the gadgets and all of that. It's the fun one. That's the fun profession, which oftentimes doesn't make as much gold for people, but it's definitely the fun one.
I don't know why all my engineers in the game end up being rogues. I like having the toys on the rogue. They were pretty squishy, and some of the old recipes had the little healing belt you could use.
Right.
So when I was getting in trouble, I could use that. So yeah, I like engineering myself, and I'm very similar to you. I like being self-sufficient on the new server. Right now, jewel crafting is the one I'm still trying to get up to 700, and then inscription. Not 100% sure how good inscription is going to be with Legion, but
yeah,
always nice to have one.
For gold making, I have to say alchemy. Over the years, it's made more gold for me than any other profession, I think. Although tailoring has been really good to me as well. I'm keeping an eye on the changes in professions in Legion because it's possible my favorite could change.
My favorite will be the one that makes me the most gold.
Right. And currently, which one is that makes you the most gold?
Right now, actually, my engineer makes... I don't have as many tailors as you do, so currently my engineer makes a little more gold. I've got a couple other tailors I'm using the catch-up mechanic to be able to make more hex weave.
if you're giving the engineer though credit for the most gold because of the sky golem,
right?
Your miner and your alchemist get a little credit for that one too. They have to share. They get to share in the credit.
There we go. Everyone gets a trophy. Day 16, quick wow gold profits. Flipping. Do you flip stuff regularly or only sometimes? Big ticket items or smaller high volume stuff?
I don't flip stuff as much as I used to. At one time, it was about 80% or more of my total income. These days, probably 15, 20%. I prefer to remove as much RNG from my gold making as I can, and waiting for things to be posted under market can be, under market price can be hit or miss.
Right.
I will say that many gold makers rake in huge profits doing nothing but flipping and sniping. It's just not for me. I like to diversify, so I do it a bit, but I have no desire to focus totally on it. Not at this time, at least. I'm a real big believer in diversification, and that's something I try to hammer into people, because if you focus on just one thing and that thing gets nerfed, you're nowhere after that. So it's good to have other things to fall back on. It's just like anything else.
Right. Day 17, pets. Did you used to do the vendor pet sales, the old rare pets, or how has the evolution of pet battling changed things for you?
No, I didn't really have any interest when they with the old companion pets. I knew a lot of people that did that and liked that, but it was not something I really had any interest in at all. Battle pets became a thing while I was on an extended break from the game, and when I returned, I loved it. It was, it wasn't just buying and selling them. I loved the idea of it. They changed everything for me with gold making. They're the reason why I've been able to branch out on multiple realms and grow exponentially. It's awesome how, if I decide that I want to establish on a new realm, all I really need to do is cage up a pet and sell it on the new realm to get started. Very, very few changes in the game have impacted gold making, for me at least, as much as this has. What about you?
I didn't, similar to you, I wasn't big into the companion pets with the exception of one. And that's when you went to a BlizzCon and you bring your wife who doesn't play, and we got Grunty, and so you right. Gave me you hooked me up with a battle pet it wasn't a battle pet, just a companion pet that nobody else in the game had, or very few people in the game had, and I still like popping that out every once in a while because people look at it and go, where in the world did you get that?
That one tripped me out when I first saw that one. It made me laugh, and so It did have value for me because it made me laugh, but in general, I wasn't one to go, hey, I'm going to have to go and, and camp this vendor that occasionally has a cat.
Right. I did get that one occasionally in Stormwind back when I was playing my Alliance tune back in the day. I did sell a couple of those cats back in the day.
Right.
Day 18, gold tips for noobs. What's the most important bit of advice you could get to a new gold maker?
Try not to reinvent the wheel, I guess. There are many successful gold makers out there who have made all the mistakes, and they found all the grand cherries for you. There's no need to blindly dig through the poop searching for them. Find a proven method of gold making out there and just duplicate it.
I know I'm doing that using advice that you've given me.
Yeah. Well, it's something that's worked for Vanilla Ice. He didn't have an original idea in his head. He just, checked out all the other rappers and just duplicated what they did, and he was a big success for a little while. So, hey, why not, right?
There we go. All right, hey, day 19, your biggest purchase. What have you bought yourself? Anything really expensive as a reward for earning all that gold? Or do you have a present in mind for yourself when you reach your goal?
Normally, I keep a very tight grip on my gold. But when I reach a long-term goal, I have to go on a shopping spree. I will admit that I do that. I buy expensive mounts, and I want to eventually have every obtainable mount in the game. Trading card game mounts are, they're all on my shopping list, and I still have several of them that I need to get, and I eventually want to get them all. The biggest ones on my list right now is the Magic Rooster Egg. My birthday's coming up in December. Anybody here's I've always wanted that. I am torn about the spider mount that's coming out in Legion. Of course, I want it, but I'm not. I don't really want it 2 million gold. I don't want it, that much. Not just yet, but I may change my mind. I don't know. It's right now I'm having a hard time wrapping my head about around spending 2 million gold for a mount. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, keep in mind this is a guy who has millions of gold, but I don't even let all my tunes have ember soak mags. So,
I'm the same way. For me, I can't think of anything I've spent a ton of gold on. I think my next big gold purchase is going to be a Tundra Mammoth. I just want to have a place to repair my stuff when I've been killed multiple times in a Legion invasion. It's like the first thing I told you. It's like, as soon as I make my first 100K, I'm going to go buy that thing. And then something else came up, and I spent.
Did. Yeah.
I've probably spent in the last month and a half 150, 200K. Jiminy Christmas.
And that's just on repairs from the Legion invasion.
All right. So day 20. Your favorite gold makers. Which are your most read or go-to gold channels, blogs, or other resources you go to for information and reading material?
Wow, there are a lot of great people out there. There are a few of them that stand out for me. First, I'm going to go to a guy. There was a guy a long time ago, Taro. Used to do Taro guides, and he was one of the earlier guys that I listened to that did WoW guides. He did all kinds of different guides, and he had a YouTube channel called Taro Guides, I think, way back in the day. I don't think he still makes videos anymore, but I used to love listening to the guy. He was kind of a trip. Had kind of a cool voice. I like the way he presented things. Of course, I have to mention Old Bess. This guy has always got great information and great presentation, and he has the best attitude you will ever hear from a gold maker. There is no ego there. There's no attitude. He doesn't look down his nose at anybody, really. He's great presentation. Have to say that again. I really like him. And lastly, got to give some love out there to all of the gold makers on the subreddit WoW Economy. You guys are great. I really enjoy the free exchange of information that we all have out there. And, it's awesome. This is another case where not a whole bunch of great big egos all the time, just a bunch of guys that are, sharing information and helping each other out. What about you?
Well, when you were the one who turned me on to WoW Economy, I listened to that. I listened to a couple other podcasts. There's always you can always find a gem out there with somebody else's information. That's about it. I mean.
Okay, that answer is incorrect. The correct answer to that is
Goblin Goldcast. Yeah.
Dex is my favorite gold maker.
I listen to you a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have a choice on
that. Right.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to give a shout out to Reckles at Wanna Buy Gold for this awesome idea of hashtag 20 days of gold making. The show's run quite a bit long. I'm looking at my timer, and even if I make some rather large edits, it's probably going to be our longest show by a bit of a margin. But I really wanted to get through this and go through all 20 of these and have a little bit of fun with it. But I think that's going to about do it for us. Why don't we tell them how they can get a hold of us?
Oh, you can get a hold of us at Mac, that's MAC, at GoblinGoldcast.com. You can get a hold of us on Twitter at Goblin Goldcast, and we also are on Facebook.
If you go to our website, we have our voicemail set up there at GoblinGoldcast.com, where you can leave us a voice message if you like. You can also listen to the show there. We're on iTunes and Stitcher. Please go there and subscribe if that's your choice of venue.
And we'll see you next week.
Now go make some gold.
What part of time is money don't you understand?